Welcome to New Life Live with Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's today's host, Chris Williams.
Hey, welcome listeners, family, friends, wherever you are, however you are, and whatever you're listening to on. Where there's many ways to connect with us. We're live on the radio, Sirius XM. We have YouTube, we have podcasts, so there's many, many different ways to connect with us. But where we would love to connect with you today is directly with us. We would love to talk to you. If you're struggling with relationships issues, addiction issues, mental health struggles, just dilemmas in your life, places where you feel stuck, give us a call, 1-800-229-3000. We would love to talk to you today. I got an incredible amount of wisdom in the studio with me today. I got Jim Burns. Jim, how you doing?
Chris, great to see you.
Yeah, and Jill is caught up in traffic right now, but she'll be here very, very shortly. Jill will be here, and we're going to have fun. We're going to have a great time. Yeah. But most importantly, we're going to be helpful to you. And one of the things that happens, Jim, is like people will call in, and they will say something or share something, and it will also be helpful to us.
Yes.
This is a reciprocal relationship. So we learn from you, you learn from us, and God's wisdom is continue to transform. Jim, what's on your mind today?
Yeah. Well, Chris, I was thinking about a phrase called traits of a healthy family. I actually did my PhD on what are the traits of a healthy family. And there were 10 traits that I wrote on for my dissertation, but one of them that surprised me was that one of the traits of a healthy family is play. Have serious fun. And what I have found that even when people are in turmoil, that if they'll just put some energy in a relationship with their kids, in a relationship with their spouse, in a relationship with people at work, whoever, family, if they'll do something that's fun. Yeah. And I'm not saying you repress all of your feelings and emotions, but I've found even in my wife Kathy and I, and we've been married 50 years now, so I'm an old guy. You're not. But in those 50 years, that sometimes the serious conversations have to be had, the conflict has to be done, and we do this, but when we have fun, that brings us together. It connects us in a way. And I was thinking about some of our listeners. There are times when they'll tell a problem, and obviously there are a lot of other problems that this isn't the answer. And I think, gosh, if you could just have a date night with your spouse, or if you just take your kid out and get a milkshake and a burger, and laugh, you probably would do better. And so I think there's somebody listening today who just needs to understand that one of the key traits of a healthy family is play. And, the average 4-year-old laughs 400 times a day. Wow. Amazing research. And you know what we do? We laugh 15 times a day.
Oh, my gosh.
So I think we need to today figure out a way to laugh and enjoy, even in the midst of our pain. I know a woman who lost her husband in a tragic accident, and she said what brought her back was, she goes, her relationship with God, prayer, and watching movies that were funny. And she said she finally realized she was getting better in her grief. And she was dealing with grief, rightly so. But she knew she was getting better when she actually could smile at a silly movie. Yeah. And I went, how healthy is that? Yeah. Yeah. You still got to deal with your stuff.
I mean, so many things come to mind, Jen. Yeah. Our need for joy. Yeah. Joy is not a luxury. Joy is a need. No. Laughter and connection. Yeah. And how laughter leads to connection, and how play is so important. And really, that's the primary form of communication for children.
Yeah, you're right. And we have to learn to choose joy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to choose that play, because we need levity in the gravity of life. Yeah. And I know me, I could take life way too seriously for too long and get weighed down. But Jesus tells us that his burdens are light. And he also asks us to have childlike faith.
Love it.
And I think that play is a part of that. So thank you. I needed that reminder today, Jim. And we, again, would love to talk to you. Give us a call, 1-800-229-3000, and we'll be back right after this.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn from New Life Live, and Chris Williams and I are doing the Emotional Freedom Workshop. I don't know of anybody that wouldn't benefit from emotional freedom. We're all bound or stuck or struggling in some area. What are we going to do there, Chris?
Just really help people get clarity around the places where they're stuck in their life. They sort of circle the same mountain of disappointment over and over and over again. You're going to be able to see that mountain clearly and get to a new place of what we call emotional freedom, which is simply I can feel in the world, build a relationship to it, and know what to do with my experiences.
The New Life Emotional Freedom Online Intensive is Saturday, September 14th. Steve Arterburn, Chris Williams, and Dr. Jackie Mack Harris will present information on trauma, depression, codependency, and more. And small group leaders will help you process the information you learn. Register online at newlife.com or call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and use the discount code NLL to save $50. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
I'm Steve Arterburn with a New Life Moment. Either outright or subtly, many people who follow Jesus and walk with God think they shouldn't struggle. We think God will give us lives of ease and comfort once we decide to follow Christ. The idea is, if we're good Christians, we'll have it all together. When you come to Christ, your problems disappear. In fact, many churches will communicate that very message week in and week out. As a result, those who attend those churches hide their struggles because they mistakenly equate struggles with a lack of faith. But the Christian walk wasn't meant to be a stroll through the park. Following the example of Jesus won't remove struggle from your life. In fact, it often adds to the struggle. Some of the most committed Christians have lived some of the most difficult lives. The Bible goes so far as to tell us to expect trials and difficulties and to be joyful when we face them. I'm Stephen Arterburn. For help in learning to struggle, visit newlife.com. And thanks for listening to this New Life Moment.
What an amazing reminder from Steve. Guys, it's a reminder for me that when I was struggling in my addiction, I didn't feel, and I'm not putting this on the church, but I didn't feel like I could bring it forth. And it was in the rooms of recovery that I actually learned to be honest. I didn't know I needed to learn to be honest or transparent. And that act itself, exposing myself and my hurts and my pains and my struggles and sins to the light of support was so transformative. And
I think of the word safety.
Yes.
You find safety sometimes in a recovery group. We need to be a church that it's safe. People can call us and it's safe.
Yes.
And in the church, sometimes we don't feel that. And I think it's so key that even we have a lot of church leaders listening. They've got to make sure that their church is safe.
Yes.
And how do you have a strong biblical worldview and still show grace and mercy? You know where we get our example? Jesus.
Yeah.
He did that beautifully. He led with love, and yet he kept, obviously, to the biblical worldview that the Bible shares.
Yes, absolutely.
But it's so difficult too when you are in addiction because the guilt and the shame keeps you from people, right?
Yes.
It's hard for you to feel safe even if people are trying. And so that's why being in recovery, being in those groups and things, it's cleansing.
It is,
right?
absolutely.
It washes away that false guilt.
Absolutely.
Well, maybe some of it's appropriate, but
but what it does is it helps bring wisdom that comes with the light. And so, and again, I'll just to say what we work with church leaders and pastors, and they also need a safe place.
They do.
Yes, they do.
To share the most honest version of themselves.
Because
and what's going on.
They have that pressure of being all things to all
Yes,
people, and
absolutely.
all of the projections of everybody in their congregation that needs them to be like the all good dad, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Although what I love today is, and I think there's a younger generation, Chris, I look at you as a younger generation, I think they're much more authentic. You have a background in counseling, of course, but you also have a pastor's heart and a pastor background. And I think the people who are preaching with authenticity, God is good. I don't have it all together. Families are messy.
Yeah.
And here's what the scripture says, and we're on it together.
Yes.
That brings people toward safety.
Yes.
And we can do that with our children. We can do that with our spouses. We can do that with our families, our workers, and we do it at church.
Yes. And I want to mention this. We have Life Recovery today. It's on NRB TV. And Steve is going today be talking with Stacy Sadler, who is going to be doing a deep dive into recovery from trauma and betrayal trauma. And she's one of the presenters at our Restore conference that is coming up this weekend. Her and Laura McDonald, they do a phenomenal job. But if you want to check that out, that's on NRB TV, Life Recovery Today, and you'll get so much more of Steve's wisdom and the wisdom of his guests. Or you can even find that on liferecoverytoday.net. Check that out. And right now, let's go to the callers. Let's go to Dorothy, listening in Chilliwack, British Columbia. Did I say that right?
Chilliwack.
Yeah. Hey, Dorothy, say it for me so I don't embarrass myself further. Chilliwack. I love it. I love it.
I've driven through that.
Yes, up in Canada. We love getting joined by the Canucks. So, Dorothy, talk to me. What's going up in the Great White North right now?
Okay, well, I'll give you my question, if that's what you want, right?
That would be great.
Okay. This is really hard for me. How do you emotionally disconnect from a son who makes egregious financial decisions and maintain moral, what's the word for it? Moral responsibility or moral...
just kind of integrity?
Integrity, that's the word.
Okay.
Integrity. He's got, I think you know something about the situation. He's got 7 children.
Wow.
He just had his 7th child.
Wow.
He and his wife are living in the U.S. undocumented.
Okay.
He's a Canadian citizen. He was born in Canada, but he can't. 4 of his children have Canadian citizenship, but they were also, all of them were born in the U.S., so they all have U.S. citizenship.
Okay.
But the big trauma for them is if they come across to Canada, there's no guarantee they'll let his wife in.
Oh, wow.
Because they've been living in the U.S. for now over 11 years, undocumented. And, this started off with they were paying a lawyer to get them legalized, and they spent $30,000 on this lawyer who didn't do a thing for them.
Oh, wow.
And so now they're stuck where they are.
Yeah.
And for them to come back to Canada, which would be, I don't know, feel it would be the right thing to do, but I can't tell them to do that because then then she would have to go back to her country, Costa Rica, and they would be separated for who knows how long, and if she would ever be allowed back in Canada because of their situation. So my little grandson, their van broke down, and my little grandson said, "Ma, Nana, I'm worried." So we're just going through the paperwork, purchasing a van for them.
Okay.
But at the same time, like my husband and I are, it's producing stress between us because we can't keep paying their bills.
Yeah.
And we're not right now. We've told them we're not paying your rent, and you have to come up with that. But it's very difficult. He works, he sells books for Amazon, and he can only do so much. Books are sort of not the big thing right now, and he's been studying to be a court
so this
interpreter.
This is your son who's doing.
Yeah.
So they're really struggling financially.
Yes.
And if I can say, it's hurting your heart. Is that accurate?
Because I don't know. Like I think at night, how do I stop this? Do I just turn my back on them and stop all communication with them? The grandchildren will forever hold us responsible, and it's not our responsibility. Their financial situation, it's not.
For sure.
But God has blessed us with money that we can help, but just how far do you go? Yeah,
I think that's a really, really important question, and also paying attention to how it's affecting your heart and how it's impacting the relationships. So Jim, where do we go from here?
Dorothy, you've got a tough situation because obviously you love those 7 kids. You love your son. It's oozing out of you. And yet the question you have to ask yourself, and there's a couple, and I want to key in on what Chris already said, but am I enabling dependency on, are your husband and you, are you enabling dependency where they can't get out of it, partly because you're trying to help, but the question becomes, am I enabling dependency? So every time you offer, like to do this fan for them or to do things, 75% of people help their adult children with finances. That's where it is in the United States right now, and I'm sure it's about the same in Canada. But the question has to be that enabling dependency. And there's times when Kathy and I will do this. We have 3 daughters, and we'll look at each other who are adults, and we'll look at each other and say, is this helping and serving, and is this a gift and is beautiful, or are we going to enable any kind of dependency on it? So that's where you have to be careful, because you can't want it more than your son wants it. And what's hard is you got those little grandkids. The thing I would say, and he was talking about your heart. Chris mentioned your heart. And I find that a lot of people, when they're working with their own adult children to try to get them together, and yours is a complicated situation. I mean, it does need another lawyer, unfortunately, and the last one didn't do well. But are you taking care of your heart? There's a Bible story where the Israelites are battling the Amalekites, and I'll say this quickly, but the Israelites, Moses is involved, and he lifts his staff, and when he does, the Israelites start winning the battle. I mean, it's a beautiful story in the Bible. But he gets tired and he gets weary, and he's feeling like, he's taking on this whole burden, so he has to sit down. He sets down the rod, and guess what happens? The Amalekites start winning. So he did something very interesting. He brings people around him to help him lift that rod. So now it's not just him, it's people who are coming alongside of him. The word picture that I'm trying to give you is, make sure that in the midst of this, you're getting your heart taken care of from people at your church, in a small group, in counseling, having coffee with a friend regularly, so that you don't feel like you're doing this on your own. Because if you burn out, then you're not going to be any benefit to them anyway, emotionally. And when you started this, you talked about emotional disconnection. How do you emotionally disconnect when you have a child who's really blowing it in many ways? I don't think you do. I mean, I think you do. You get the help you can by having people around you, but your heart is going to hurt as long as he's making poor choices, and as long as they're in the conundrum that they're in. So that's my thought.
Dorothy, does your son know the position you feel that you're in? Does he know that your heart is hurting? And
I've told him that. I've told him that. I've said, I'm 66 here, and what happens? Like, we're not going to be here forever. What happens when we're not here? And I told him I love him very much. We've had. He has an anger problem, and I don't feel safe anymore going there on my own. He's very sweet right now, but
So he's perhaps with the anger problem, because I'm wondering, is he someone that takes input in and is willing to listen and is humbled by that, or does he get defensive?
He becomes defensive.
Yeah, he becomes
defensive. And I actually
defensive.
phoned New Life a few years ago, and they recommended the Dave Ramsey's financial, and he went.
Oh, good.
He went with his wife, but they don't use it. He says my financial, or no, talking about himself, he says his financial rating, or whatever you want to call it, I don't know what you call it, is down the tube. So he just feels
credit
like
score.
Put the old van. His credit score. He's put the old van, which broke down on him when he was taking his wife back home from the hospital for the last birth. He's had it towed to the front of his house, and he's just coming, quite expecting the bank to come and pick it up. He still owes debt on the bank for the van. We've purchased a new van for him. And I put my name on the ownership of the van because being afraid that the bank might. I don't know what's going to happen.
Are you purchasing it outright? You're not expecting him to make payments on it.
No.
Right. So I think that's
But my husband
important
and I,
to protect yourselves financially, and to only do things that you feel are congruent with how you might do things, right? Additionally, things to help the kids, but to allow your son to have to suffer some of his own consequences, right? For the decisions he's made. And that's a fine line, because you don't want the kids to suffer, right? And yet that's part of it. But you can do things directly for the kids versus giving money to your son.
Yeah, so Dorothy, there is some direction and guidance we want to give you in this, and we're going to continue to do that. But as you hear the music, we're going to head to a break here. Again, we'd love to talk to you today. Give us a call, 1-800-229-3000. Anything that you're struggling with, anything you'd like to talk to us about, we would love to talk to you. So again, give us a call, 1-800-229-3000. We'll be right back.
About 4 years ago is when I discovered my husband's addiction. I heard about New Life. It has been life-changing for me and for my husband both. It was direction when we were lost, and it was hope when we had none. The help that we received from New Life has been multifaceted. My husband did the Every Man's Battle workshop. We did the marriage weekend. We are avid listeners of the radio and TV programs, and I think those are awesome, wonderful resources. And, I think the people who support New Life financially are people that I'll never know. I'll never be able to thank them personally for the gift that they gave to us. I believe, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that their giving saved me, my husband, and our family from being torn apart.
To make your tax-deductible gift, visit newlife.com and click Donate. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or text NLM to 28950. That's NLM to 28950.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 Steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 Steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 Steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. We're in studio today, myself, Chris Williams, Dr. Jill Hubbard, Jim Burns, and we're talking with Dorothy, and just in this really, really challenging, complicated situation where there are legal and citizen issues with her adult son and wife and 7 grandchildren, and they're in a real financial crisis. But Dorothy, it sounds to me like the crisis continues, like it's an ongoing financial crisis. Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Yeah. There's a couple things that come to mind for me, and going off of what Jim and Jill has shared, and that is one thing. There's this thing called learned helplessness. And learned help, right? And underneath that, it's important to understand that when a person is in that learned helplessness, they have a storehouse of frustration, most likely even shame, that they're in the situation, that they can't make life work. And that energy underneath that sounds like it's fueling his anger. And the irony is it comes out towards the people that help him the most.
Yes.
Okay, so Dorothy, there's 3 C's. You didn't cause that. You cannot control. No. You cannot control that, and you can't. And you cannot cure it. That is the work that your son has to do.
Right.
Right. Okay. Now, The other thing I want to mention is that there is what I call proactive generosity versus reactive generosity. So reactive generosity is fine. Generosity is great. But we have to understand is that reactive generosity is usually generosity in reaction to a crisis. Mm-hmm. And what that does is it puts the power in the crisis. The crisis now gets to determine where the money goes. So good. Mm-hmm. Right?
Oh, okay.
Yep. So you are no longer in control of your generosity. The crisis is in control of your generosity. And they are unending. And therefore, in you, your heart starts to get bitter. That's what Jim was talking about. You got to protect your heart against that.
Which is why you're asking about disconnecting.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Like, how do I get out of this painful situation where I'm frustrated and resentful and he's mad and angry and the crisis continues and my grandchildren are hurting? That's just painful.
Yeah.
Where proactive generosity says, I'm now in control of my generosity. And what I've now decided in my heart, along with my husband, here's what we're willing to do and give. And it has a limit to it. Because it all has limits.
Yes.
You know?
Right, exactly.
Both a number limit and a time limit. And that's what I would really encourage you and your husband to do. And as Jill suggested, trying to keep the ongoing conversation going with your son about the protection of the relationship as they're working through these crises.
And even trying to understand, maybe at a time when he's not defensive.
Yes.
To say, I notice when I, go in a certain direction, you get defensive. What is going on inside of you at that moment?
Absolutely.
That's triggering that, son, for you.
Yeah.
And that's not in the heat of the battle. Just
No.
what I hear you saying, Jill. It's sometime when things are going good and life's a little bit more
right.
in line with,
and giving him a little empathy.
Exactly.
It must be really frustrating
Yeah.
for you to have all these crises
Yes.
that keep happening.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
Yeah.
Right?
And the last thing I'd
And
say,
that's being emotionally supportive.
exactly. And the last thing I say is desperate people make desperate decisions, and desperate decisions are rarely good ones.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we want wisdom to re-enter into this because we also want to probably triage these resources. What is the most important thing to invest in right here? And how do we, instead of enable, how do we partner in understanding and then making a plan and moving from there?
Right.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, that's
Yeah.
good
Very
stuff,
good.
Chris.
Yeah.
Well, Dorothy,
Yeah.
Dorothy, thank you so much for calling in because it's helping us process through that as well. And we're going to send you a copy of Jim's book, Doing Life with Your Adult Children, because it's amazing how many of us are working through those things and how common it is. And Dorothy, we love your faith. We love your love for your children. But I will say we love your heart the most. And so as the great proverb says, above all else, guard it, protect it, nourish it. So thank you for calling today. And I just want to mention this weekend we have Restore coming up. And I just got a call yesterday from a woman who just that day discovered infidelity from her husband. And I cannot tell you the devastation it is. As a guy who's worked in trauma for years and years and years now, betrayal trauma is real, it's legitimate, and it is profound. And as a result of that, I love that New Life has said, hey, this is something we need to address. This is an area of suffering we need to support. So this weekend, Restore is happening. If you're a woman in that situation, please, this weekend in Dallas, I know it's like, hey, this is late in the game, but it's never too late nor too early to get the help that you need. So you can sign up. You can just call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. You can go online, www.newlife.com, and sign up today. Get the information, get the details, get the support that you need. If finances are a barrier, we have scholarships for that as well. So, again, New Life. New Life, I'm just messing that up. Not New Life Live, Life Recovery today. You also can go on and watch that today on NRB TV or go on liferecoverytoday.net, and you'll see one of the presenters for Restore talk. Stacy's going to talk about her own journey, and that can also be a phenomenal resource for you. Please let us help you. Give us a call, 1-800-229-3000, and we'll be back right after this.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit its addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. Daniel Grossman on coaching.
Coaches are really focused on the future and helping people to develop those skills and those strategies to help them move forward in their life. A coach really partners with you to focus on things like personal growth or health goals, spiritual growth, helping you develop in your career or possibly strengthening your relationships or maybe even breaking free from a negative pattern.
If you need a coach for life, your career, relationships, your health and fitness, leadership, and more, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been screened and certified with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
Coaches use different techniques. Some like to use strategic questions and accountability, ultimately empowering you to take those next steps towards your goals.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE and talk to us about getting a New Life coach today.
I really believe that everyone can use a coach in their corner.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live, and I have in studio with me Jim Burns, Dr. Jill Hubbard, and we would love for you to join us. Give us a call, 1-800-229-3000. I want to mention a book that I've been reading. I love it. It has really reinvigorated my own faith. It has got me in touch with myself and with God and with further progress. It's not the first time this author has done it, but he does it again. And that is Dr. Henry Cloud's new book, Why I Believe. And one of the things I really appreciate about this book is Henry does a little bit more deep dive into his own story and letting us into his backstory, which I find incredibly helpful. And I know this book will be helpful to you. Here's what we're going to do. Any donation of helping us here of $25 or more to New Life, and you are going to receive a copy of Why I Believe by Dr. Henry Cloud. So you're going to receive a great resource, but you're also going to help us continue to do what we do in helping people find hope and healing in life's hardest places. And we're all about it. And we can't do it without your support, without your prayers, and without all of us joining together. So we would love to bless you with Why I Believe, and please return the favor with blessing us with a $25 or more donation. It doesn't have to be $25. It could be $2,500 if you want it to be. We're okay with that too. Right. But we definitely want to bless you.
No gift is too large.
Yes, right. That's right. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Jill. Well, we're going to go back to the phones. We're going to talk to Holly, listening in Boston, Massachusetts. Holly, you're there. Hey, Holly, can you hear me? Holly, you there? So we're going to...
I'm here.
Okay.
Oh, good.
There you are, Holly. All right. We almost lost you. You with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, talk to us. What's going on? What's happening in your life today?
So, I brought up my daughter. I became a single parent when she was 3.5. Father left the house, divorced, and went overseas. So now she's 22. She just graduated in May. She was living at college, and she has a boyfriend there at college. So he's 1 year younger, 1 year behind in school.
Uh-huh.
And instead of coming home to be with me, she stayed at school. She's paying school to be there, so that she's near him. And now she's working. She did pre-law, so she's taking a break. She said she's tired mentally, so she needs a break. She studies very hard. She's a great student. She's doing very well in school. But the thing is, so she's taking 1 year off, and then she's going to go to university.
Uh-huh.
And I've lost work, and I've been hurting financially. And so she's working at a lawyer's office assistant, and I asked her for some financial help. She stopped talking to me.
Yeah. Did she say why? What did she make a comment? What was her reaction to your request?
Honestly, I don't even recall exactly what she said.
Uh-huh.
But I think the conversation ended like right there, and after that, I called. She didn't answer. I've left a message. She doesn't answer either. I know where she lives because it's the school, where she went, and I know where she works. I just don't know, like, if I just let it be, I don't feel comfortable with it. It hurts me.
So
I'm curious as to exactly why she's doing
right.
this.
So Holly,
and I don't know whether I go and try to talk to her.
Yeah.
Okay. So Holly, help me understand. Is there perhaps a history? You've been a single mom a long time, and I know being a single mom, the full burden falls on you.
Yes.
Has there been a history of you struggling financially?
Definitely. The whole time, times I was able to make things things were a little better, but most of the time, hurting financially, I haven't been able to get on my feet financially yet. I just haven't.
Okay.
And I feel tired. I feel there's the men that go to war, and after the war they broke and they tired. I feel that way.
Yeah.
And I know it's going to take some time for me to get back on my feet, but I don't have like model financially from any family member. She just cannot help. I came from big family, poor family myself, and I don't have financial support as well. And then when I talked to her that, asking her if she could help me to this time now until I get back on my feet, she doesn't talk to me any longer.
Right. I wonder, Holly, I mean, she's at an age where a daughter or kids are trying to separate and individuate from parents. She's been in the U.S. school system and kind of a Western way of thinking, and that is kids grow up, right, and they go to school, and then they go off on their own, right? It's not that they leave families in the dust, but as they're making their way, it's a little more unusual for the parents to be dependent on their just recently budding adult children. And so I'm wondering if you have struggled her whole life, she may have a lot of hurt about that, about her mom not being able to get it together or not having other resources. And it may feel, and I'm sorry to say this because I understand you're in a hard position, but it may feel very burdensome to her.
Actually, I was the one with everything on my hands, like you said. I used, whatever I did was pretty much for her. And
I understand that. And so
she had it pretty good. I didn't have what she had in a family of two parents. But
I understand that, Holly, and because
everything that I didn't have.
Right, and I understand that, and that's what all of us parents do. We want to give our kids what we didn't have. But here's the thing: in doing that, she has had more than you had, so she doesn't have a sense of perhaps how much you have sacrificed, right? Because
she did see kind of in the way. We don't have the one in my place, but she just, there's a time that we are out on the streets. I took her to dentist, doctor, whatever.
Okay.
And we both hungry.
So Holly.
Yes, I understand, but Holly, I think you might need to maybe reach out and ask her if it hurt her that you asked for her help. And that how does she feel about that? And that you understand she's just starting out in her career. And that may have felt uncomfortable to her. And can you guys talk about that? Because you don't want to put her in an uncomfortable position.
Because my question is to myself is like this, all right? The Bible says that if there is a problem between people in relationship, you should try to fix it that day and not let it go to the next day, because friendship with the people, the devil will add things to it. And the thing is, so my question is, should I let it go or should I let go? And should I go and talk to her?
Well, I wouldn't show up at her workplace. I wouldn't do that. I would find a way to, either in writing, or let her know that, kind of what you're feeling in a voice message. But I would not lecture her on how much you've done for her and how much you've sacrificed for her. That would not go over well. Yeah. Okay.
One practical idea, Holly, is for you to write her a letter and make it a love letter. Don't even talk about every issue and like what Jill said. You don't want to say here's what I've done for you, but just say, you know what, your relationship to me is so much more than me asking for finances. And because I think a lot of times 22-year-olds are going to they don't know how to communicate that, or they feel burdened, or who knows what she's doing with her money. And so she just blocked you instead of communicating with her. That's not good. She should have communicated with you. Please hear that. At the same time, what she probably needs from her mom is, I love you. I want this relationship to work. I do have some financial issues, and maybe I could have done that differently, and we could have had a conversation about that differently. But let's just put that aside. I just want you to know I love you, and I'd love to have a meal with you and reconnect. And then you start, building that relationship back up, because she doesn't want to talk to you about that. I think she felt the burden.
Yes.
And I think there is a reality that launching in today's world for young adults is really overwhelming.
Yes.
It's a huge challenge. But
it's a selfish time.
It is a very selfish time. And Holly, living in in today's economy is also really tough. I want to send you a copy of Take Your Life Back. And the reason for that is I think it'll guide some things in you and your heart that you can re-up on believing and trusting and taking some action towards getting some more financial security in your own life and really getting secure in yourself. Thank you so much. We'll be right back.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are. Club New Life changes lives.
You guys came along into my life in 2022. That was a really, really difficult year of my life.
You can help New Life Ministries provide Christ-centered hope and counseling resources to thousands of people by joining Club New Life today.
I began to really process a lot of things that I've needed to for a long time, and y'all were a very big part of that.
When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, you'll make a difference in the lives of individuals and families with godly counsel and connection to help.
I came out of it having never experienced anything like that, and y'all were there.
Join today and help continue the message of hope to a troubled world.
I knew I had to keep going, and I joined Club New Life, and y'all have been the resource that has now been a light for my wife and I.
Go to newlife.com/CNL, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places.
Keep doing what you do because it makes a difference.
newlife.com/CNL. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. Chris Williams with Dr. Jill Hubbard, Jim Burns. We're here to talk to you. We're going to be in studio for another hour after this show, so please give us a call, 1-800-229-3000, whatever you're struggling with. We'd love to help you. If it's a legal issue, we'll refer you to a lawyer. But if it's a personal, relational issue, a mental health, an emotional struggle, let us help you. Let us work through it and workshop this together so that we can help each other and free each other up to, as I say, most importantly, execute God's goodwill on planet Earth. And so with that, we're going to go to Jordan, listening in Saginaw, Michigan on Sirius XM. Jordan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, talk to us, man. What's going on?
Man, I've been going through a lot of mental problems. So I'm not saying like crazy or nothing like that, but it's from the past. And my upbringing, my father, he did time in the service, his Navy SEAL or whatnot, but he came home with a lot of PTSD.
Yes.
And me and my brothers were just horribly treated wrong,
Yeah.
It was just a horrible, all the way up to I was 15 and had to be an adult, had a kid at a young age. Just was taught the wrong things, dude. Like,
yeah.
And my grandfather, he's a deacon at a church. I do have God in my life, but I'm having trouble letting go of how I was treated and all that, and it only comes with like my kids, they do the same mistakes I did when I was younger, but I used to get beat. I don't do that to them,
Yeah.
I don't treat my kids like that, but when I get done, I talk to them about it, and the situation's good with me and my son, I go in my room and I just beat myself up, and it you get what I'm saying?
I do get what you're saying.
Every day.
So Jordan, you continue to do to yourself kind of where your father left off.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's still going through it. I'm still going through it. I got 6 kids I raised. They're good. They've never seen a day how I was raised. They never witnessed, never felt any type of bad emotions of how I was raised. They don't know nothing about it.
Yeah.
My wife doesn't even know.
Yeah.
My wife knows a little, but she doesn't know. And I communicate with her. And, and my father, he's still in my life. I tried to sit him down, talk to him, like, man, how I feel, but he's constantly borrowing money from me. Constantly not paying me back, treating me like I'm nothing.
Yeah.
I'm nothing.
So Jordan, let's do this, man, because I have a really good idea where to take you here, but I want to make sure that I'm living where you're at. So what's the question for us today? How can we help you?
What are the steps I could do to either just cancel them out of my life, or how to approach that to them, or just do it? Them, or they're my toxins in my life. They're still
it's an essential question. What do I do with the pain of the past that keeps showing up today?
Yes.
All right. Jim, what do you think?
I've got a phrase for you, Jordan, and I think you're awesome, by the way. Before freedom comes pain. And you may have to look at some of the pain of your relationship with your dad. And sometimes and you go talk to a counselor, you talk to a coach, any of us. I mean, you sound like a really sharp person. And so that means that sharp people are willing to go get the help they need to get to, they'll go to the coach, they'll go to the counselor and kind of work through some of this stuff. But, the Bible says something, and this is and I'll let these guys go to it, but I want you to hear this. The Bible says you inherit the sins of a previous generation to the 3rd and 4th generation. Hey, you know what, dude? You are the transitional generation for that family because you aren't doing what your father did to you. And so you need to celebrate the fact that although you still have this pain, you aren't, putting that pain on those kids of yours. They haven't seen that. So, you are a guy who can make progress. You'd be the guy I'd want in my office hanging out with because you're willing to make those changes. But to do it, you may have to have some, like I said, before freedom comes pain. But remember this, you're part of the transitional generation, and that's so key. You're changing the trajectory of a family that, you didn't get. But you're making a difference. So keep on keeping on, but keep getting the help that you need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important, Jordan. I'm so glad you called. And you've been trying to kind of keep a lid on this, and you're already recognizing that it kind of leaks out, right? I think it's important to be in that growth process so that you will continue to show your kids something different. So you're doing it for you, and you're doing it for them. So that's really important. So I think to get into some therapy, I also would recommend my book, Forgiving Our Fathers and Mothers.
Yes.
And I think you have to start to not expect anything from your dad. You have to get to a place where you can kind of love him with a little bit of detachment, as we were talking about earlier, and see him as a hurting person, but not need from him, because you're not going to get what you have needed from him.
And I think that's really, really important, Jill, because Jordan, I feel for you, man. I have a dad, or I had a dad, who also carried PTSD from war and carried deep addictions.
Yeah.
And though wasn't violent because he wasn't there. But there's this weird thing that happens because dad is inside of us, man. He lives, our dads live inside of us, and that's why we have daddy issues, and that's why we got to work through them. And join me, I'm a card-carrying member since 1975. So in my daddy issues, what I had to learn how to do was this. I had to learn how to grieve. But it was a weird grief. I had to learn how to grieve the dad that I got.
Yeah.
But I had to learn how to grieve the dad I would never get.
Yep.
I understand that, but it's to the point. I haven't cried in 7 years. Not shed a tear about it. I'm emotionless about things.
Yes.
And I'm starting to repeat his way of thinking. Look at life.
Jordan, that's it, man. There is this line I think is pretty brilliant. It's the pain that we do not transform, we transmit. Okay. The spiritual writer Richard Rohr wrote that. The pain that we do not transform, we transmit. So as Jim was guiding you, we've got to go in. I hate to say it, but to heal out a wound, we got to touch the pain. So getting into a good therapist, a good trauma therapist that helps you work through that, it starts rooting out that pain.
With a male therapist.
Yeah, I think a male therapist would be huge on that, because there's going to be two things that we're going to do with that pain. We're either going to medicate it or act it out. And when we medicate it, now we're in addiction.
Right.
When we act it out, we're just causing harm. And we also act in, too. We act in towards ourselves, and you told me you're doing that. So the key is that a good healing process really helps us move through it so that we no longer carry pain and fear that has to be medicated or acted out.
So we can help you find someone to meet with, but then I think you've got to let your wife into this process, too. The fact that you've not told her things.
Yeah.
She's got to be part of it. Right? She's your support team.
Yeah.
And to
it's
trust
my guess
her.
she already knows.
Probably.
Well, she's getting it. She both knows and she feels it.
Yeah.
And it'll produce intimacy for you with her. Connection. Intimacy, connection.
Absolutely. So we're going to send you a copy of Jill's book, Forgiving Our Fathers and Mothers. I'm also going to do this. It's not coming up until October, but you are also going to get a free registration to our online conference, our Life Recovery Conference. And that just helps you continue in this recovery from your trauma process. But before that, let's get you connected to a therapist who can really help root this out and free you from the pain of your father issues. Give us a call, 1-800-229-3000. We're going to be in studio another hour. Thank you for being with us today, and we just pray that you would continue to find hope and healing in your hardest places. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Thanks for watching today. We love helping people. I hope you sense that. And we know that there's always hope if you find the right resource. Now, if something we've said to somebody else applies to you, that's fantastic. That's what we're hoping for. But also, if you want to join us directly, you can call 1-800-229-3000 between 1 and 3 Eastern Time, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. Those are the best times to get through. And while you're here on YouTube, check out these other videos that we've done to help people see where they could grow or a different path to take. And if you do that, would you give us a thumbs up on the video, and please subscribe to this channel. There are many ways that we can help you outside of the radio program, and it's very hard for some to pick up a phone and dial 1-800-NEW-LIFE, but when you do, we put you in touch with somebody who cares about you, knows all the resources out there, and they're going to find the best for you. There is no reason to struggle alone. I hope to see you tomorrow. Hope you'll invite somebody else to come and join that maybe needs just a little bit of help along the way.